Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening. Then, Jared sardonically remarked, "This is the paternity test we've done with the traces of your saliva left over from the meal." Paternity test? Nolan blinked as he searched his mind for answers to what it was. It's the test that can prove if a child is related to a parent. Jared snorted at Nolan's clever yet mischievous character. "You know your stuff." Nolan glared at him. "Why did you take this test with me? There's no way I could be your child." Indeed, Nolan would be anyone's son but Jared's. "You have no say in that matter." Jared scoffed as he anticipated Nolan's breakdown upon seeing the results. As expected, the moment Nolan noticed how quiet Nikki was, he climbed onto the bed to see the results for himself. Though he was just 5 years old, he could already understand Hustruabergian. And when he saw that they were a perfect match, his jaw dropped. "How is this possible?" he asked, wondering how he could be the son of that big of meanie. Jared smirked in satisfaction when he saw the looks of shock on Nikki and Nolan's faces. "Are you not happy with it? Well, we can do the test again." Nikki's suspicions were confirmed when she saw the look of confidence on Jared's face. He is definitely not lying. As it turned out, the resemblance between the two was not just an illusion. Jared was truly her son's father. And with this revelation, Nikki felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She was left feeling overwhelmed and utterly shocked. "You knew all along, didn't you?" Nikki figured. "That's why he insisted on keeping me by his side. I think that, when he said he was indebted, it had nothing to do with money. It was an emotional debt. Goodness me." Jared was brimming with satisfaction when he saw Nikki's expression shifting from shock to fear and guilt. At that moment, he bent over and brought his face closer to hers. He was so close that he was almost breathing on her face, his eyes locking with hers. "You were pregnant with my kid when you went missing 5 years ago. It's only natural that I was able to make the correct guess. Besides, don't you think this little thing looks a lot like me?" he asked. "How slow is she? It's been 3 days. How has she not noticed the resemblance between us?" he thought. And just like that, Nikki's reality shattered once again. "Who said I didn't? I just noticed it back there. It's just that. You have never been seen together with Nolan before. Oh crap. This is one hell of a debt. I actually ran away while I was pregnant 5 years ago. Who made me this brave? Sarah Bareilles." At that moment, Nolan finally responded by yelling, "I don't want to look like you." He would never want to resemble a demon who had the audacity to bully his mother. "This test result is definitely fabricated." Nolan strongly denied. Jared chuckled. "It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. What's important is whether your mommy believes it or not." Then, he turned to Nicole. Expectedly, Nicole was at a loss for words. "Mommy, don't believe him," Nolan said in an attempt to persuade Nicole. However, it was then that Nicole decided that she could not sit on it anymore. "Let's talk outside." She did not want to frighten her son, so she dragged Jared out of the room. Nolan watched as her mother walked away with Jared the bully, gritting his teeth in defiance. "I would never acknowledge a meanie like you as my father," he shouted. "Come quick, Godpa. Mommy's being taken away." Nikki yanked Jared through the doorway, only to realize she had no clue where to go. To her surprise, Jared took charge and wrapped his arm around her waist, guiding her straight into the study. Then, he pressed her against the door panel. "You don't have to get so close to me." Nikki cursed in her mind. "Seriously, I came here to discuss business with him. Why does he keep flirting with me all the time?" Jared lowered his head, locking his gaze with hers, his eyes penetrating. "What's the matter? Are you feeling nervous?" As Nikki once again sensed his overwhelming presence, her body involuntarily tensed up, particularly when she thought about their previous kiss and the memories it invoked. She couldn't help but wonder if they had truly shared an intimate moment. The thought caused her face to flush with heat. "Take it easy, Nikki couldn't take it anymore. She pressed her hand against his chest, mustering her courage and meeting his gaze. Even if there was something between us in the past, I've changed. That's not who I am anymore. Her eyes shimmered with determination and a hint of pleading. Nikki needed time to process this information. She also wanted to figure out what exactly had happened between them in the past and why he was her child's father. A flicker of hurt crossed Jared's face as he observed the distant expression in her eyes. What do you mean? In his mind, whether it was the past version of her or the present, she was his wife, the person he cherished most. Yet she had just said, "That's not who I am anymore." Nikki paused, taking a moment to compose herself before speaking in a calm tone. "It's simple. Even if there was something between us in the past, we've been apart for 5 years. During that time, I've built my own life, and you can't keep me tied to you in this ambiguous state." She could endure these 3 days, but she couldn't continue to linger by his side with such ambiguity. Ambiguous. Jared's eyebrows shot up, and anger flickered in his eyes. Abruptly, he released her and forcefully pulled open a drawer, retrieving 2 Panem marriage certificates. "Take a good look, we're legally married." Nikki blinked, slightly confused, and instinctively opened the 2 small booklets. She felt surprised that she could actually read Panemian. She could even comprehend it, and indeed, they were genuine Panem marriage certificates. Being well aware of Panem's laws, she knew how difficult divorce could be, prompting many people to seek marriage there as a means of providing security for their partners. She hadn't expected that she had actually tied knot with this man in Panem. Internally, she exclaimed, "Oh my God! This news is too overwhelming, I can't process it." Turning to Jared, she asked, "Are you absolutely certain we're legally married? I wasn't coerced or anything, right?" Otherwise, Nikki couldn't fathom why she would have gone to a country like Panem with a man to register their marriage. How deeply must she have loved him to make such a decision? Yet, the imposing figure standing before her also evoked a sense of fear. Coerced. Jared nearly burst into laughter. He really wanted to pry open this woman's mind and see what she was thinking. Seeing Jared's increasingly displeased expression, Nikki swiftly understood the gravity of the situation and said, "I was just joking." She and her child were still under his control, and she couldn't afford to provoke him. "But I do need time to process this information and thoroughly investigate my past." Upon hearing that she wanted to investigate, Jared sarcastically remarked, "If you really wanted to know, why did you throw away the information from that day?" When Nicole had disappeared, along with the fire crest, Jared had feared that someone might find Nicole before him and cause her harm. For the past 5 years, Jared had instructed Zeke, Preston, and others to erase all traces of Nicole. In Hustruaberg, nobody could find any information about Nicole. Even if investigations were conducted overseas, those involved would only discover scattered remnants. So, even if Nicole attempted to investigate on her own, she wouldn't uncover much. Nikki let out a sigh and said, "I didn't lose the information from that day. My son accidentally dropped it out of the window." She didn't want to provide further explanation, so she could only attribute it to an accident. However, Jared still sensed her unease. Accidentally? He thought, that brat must have done it on purpose. Just the mere thought of Nolan, who had been trying to set Nicole up with his so-called godpa, made Jared feel the urge to give him a good beating. "Well, if you don't mind, could you give me another copy?" Nikki pondered that this time, she would thoroughly examine the information. Jared looked at Nicole intently and suddenly changed his mind. "I don't have another copy." Feeling impatient at his refusal, Nikki grew frustrated. "How is it possible that you don't have a copy?" She cursed in her mind. "Don't be so childish. Just give me another copy quickly. Otherwise, how am I supposed to find out about my own past?" She genuinely felt curious about her own history. Despite having offended many people in the past, she couldn't afford to care about that now. After all, her child's father stood right in front of her, and she needed to address this matter. "Want to know about your past?" Jared replied, his tone slightly challenging. "Then stick with me, and I'll personally fill you in." Nikki blinked in surprise. "What do you mean?" Jared's eyes narrowed slightly. I mean, if you leave me, no one will ever be able to tell you about your past because I've already had someone erase everything related to you from the internet. You had someone erase it? She had suspected something fishy all along. As someone as prominent as Jared, his wife should have been well known, but Nikki couldn't find any connection between the name Nicole and him, no matter how extensively she searched. For the sake of your safety, it was necessary, he said, his gaze suddenly deepening. Nikki fell into silence, a strange sense of belief in his words washing over her. However, she couldn't fully accept it and reluctantly voiced her concerns. So, you're saying that whatever you tell me is the truth, and I have no way to argue if you're lying. Jared saw Nicole pouting and let out a cold laugh. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. My responsibility is to fill you in. Resigned, Nikki sighed but could only agree, understood. After a brief silence, she had a sudden thought and asked, who lives in the neighboring estate? Do I know them? Since Jared had promised to reveal the past to her, Nikki decided to seize the opportunity and inquire about anything she vaguely remembered. However, she didn't expect Jared's gaze to darken suddenly. To find out about that, you'll have to hear it directly from them, he replied. Jared couldn't reveal every single detail about the Riddle family to her, so it would be better to let her hear from them in person. They will tell me? Nikki was taken aback, instinctively feeling a strong connection with that family. Perhaps she was even intimately acquainted with them. If you want to know that badly, then come with me, Jared replied. With those words, he simply took hold of her hand and pulled her out of the study. Hey, where are you taking me? Nikki struggled in the hallway. Jared remained indifferent and didn't respond. Hearing the commotion, Nolan peeked out and immediately grew concerned when he saw his mother being forcefully taken away. Ignoring everything else, he hurriedly followed, trying to catch up. A few minutes later, Jared brought Nicole to the front door of the Riddle residence. Then, he rang the doorbell without giving Nicole any time to react. Nikki was shocked as she widened her eyes. What are you doing? I didn't say I wanted to go inside. She figured that it would be inappropriate for her to show up uninvited at the home of the people she did not know anymore. But they've been thinking about you every day, Jared argued. He had tried to delay this meeting for 3 days now, thinking that Nicole would have more time to prepare herself mentally. However, he and the Riddles had been dying to see her for the longest time. Nikki widened her eyes, not knowing what he was talking about. All of a sudden, a butler with a head full of white hair came outside, and as soon as he saw Nicole, he stood there, rooted in disbelief. The butler was shocked to see Nicole as he quickly opened the door and rubbed his eyes, afraid that he was just hallucinating. Ms. Nicole? Is that you? Is that really you? Nikki did not know what to say, but she felt a sense of familiarity and comfort the moment she caught sight of the butler's face. He just called me Ms. Nicole. Perplexed, Nikki asked, Jared, is this my home? They went inside, and there, Nicole took a close look at the building in front of her. Suddenly, she felt a searing pain in her temple, causing her to reach for her head and hold it. Ugh! Jared held onto her as soon as he saw that. Are you okay? He frowned and eyed Nicole with a look of concern as he quietly blamed himself for having done something so hasty. I'm fine. Nicole took a few deep breaths, finally regaining some of her memories. Do you still want to go inside? He asked. The only reason as to why he had not informed the Riddles about her return was because he was worried that they would bombard her with a ton of questions and overwhelm her by forcibly attempting to help her regain her memories. He would not have made the impulsive decision to bring Nicole here if it was not for the little brat. When he saw how much pain Nicole was in, he felt an instant pang of regret. However, Nikki nodded with a stern expression on her face. If this is really my home, I've got to go inside. She regained her balance and looked at the building with mixed feelings. She gathered her courage and finally, she decided to have a look inside. After seeing the look of determination in her eyes, Jared calmed down as well. Okay, let's go then. I'll walk with you, he said, his hand still holding onto hers. For some strange reason, she felt a sense of security while she was with him. Then, the two of them entered the Riddle residence. Meanwhile, the butler quickened his steps and went into the house to inform the Riddles about what he had just seen. "Sir, madam, Miss Nicole is back." It had been 5 years, and during that period of time, the entire house had been awash in nothing but sadness. But when the announcement had been made, the air around them seemed to freeze for a moment, and the eyes of the dispirited woman, who was sitting on the sofa, suddenly sparkled. "Nicole. Did you just say Nicole?" Gloria stood up wearily, her legs so weak that she almost tipped over as soon as she was on her feet. Fortunately, Daniel acted swiftly. "You've just recovered not long ago. Sit still." Gloria had not been eating well for as long as she missed Nicole. She even had a difficult time consuming food in the past year, and malnutrition had taken such a toll on her that she could not even walk properly. In fact, it was a miracle that she could suddenly get on her feet. "Nicole. I want to see Nicole," she shouted. That was the only thing Gloria cared about at that very moment. She had waited for 5 long years, and Nicole was finally back. Thus, it would be impossible for her to just sit still. At that moment, everyone from the top floor had heard the commotion too. Sean and Steve hurriedly came down. "Mom, Dad, what's happening?" Then, Samuel and Spencer immediately got out of their bedroom on the first floor as well. "Mom, Dad, is everything all right?" After that, Stanley made his way downstairs and curiously asked, "What's going on?" It was then that they suddenly saw 2 figures coming inside, the sight of which left the 5 men dumbfounded. "Stanley, am I seeing this correctly? I think I saw Nicole." Samuel widened his eyes, thinking that it was all just an illusion. Spencer stuttered, "I saw her too." Shocked, Stanley sputtered, "It's real. It's really her." Sean and Steve, who were stunned too, were both at a loss for words. Nicole had been missing for 5 years, and the last thing they had ever expected was to see her again. However, Jared had never given up on searching for her, and at long last, he found her. "It's really Nicole." Gloria was overwhelmed with excitement as tears began streaming down her face. She could not help but cry out loud upon finally seeing the person she had been yearning for after so long. "My daughter, you're finally back." She had been away from home for so many years, and just a year after she had returned, she was caught in a plane crash, causing the separation to last for another 5 years. Once again, Gloria had gone through the pain of losing her beloved child. Every single day in the past 5 years felt like eternal torment to her. Meanwhile, Nikki had seen Gloria's tearful eyes and heard her saddening cry. Suddenly, she felt a tearing sensation in her heart and a lump in her throat. Even though she had no memories of her mother, the feelings within her felt so real. As it turned out, Jared had not lied to her. This place was truly her home. Gloria then reached out to Nikki, who instinctively walked toward her, allowing Gloria to hold her as she did not want that old lady to fall over again. Her movements were so natural, but her blank mind made it impossible for her to say anything to them. At that exact second, Tia pushed Mrs. Wallace Sr. out in a wheelchair from behind the crowd. Mrs. Wallace Sr.'s eyes turned red as soon as she saw Nicole. "Nicole, you're really back. Where have you been all these years?" Tears welled up in Tia's eyes too as she quickly pushed Mrs. Wallace Sr. closer toward Nicole, and that was when the latter grabbed Nicole's hand, refusing to let go. Tia and Mrs. Wallace Sr. were right next to each other, and they were the exact people she had seen on the balcony earlier. Soon enough, Nicole realized that they were indeed her family, and she finally knew why she felt sad just by looking at them from afar. Sean knew that something was wrong when he saw how quiet Nicole was. Then, he looked at Jared and asked, "Mr. Johnston, when did you find my sister?" Jared knew that he could not hide the truth from him, so he gave them an honest answer: 3 days ago. Preston was the one who had found her in a hacker contest first. 3 days ago? Then why did you bring her back now? Steve asked, feeling a little upset. He knew very well that our mother had been living in pain all this while, and yet he hid Nicole from us. How could he do that? Steve thought. Jared looked at Steve, and with downcast eyes, he replied, "She has lost her memories. I was worried that it would be too overwhelming for her if I brought her back rashly." Lost her memories? Samuel and Spencer repeated after Jared in unison. Sean and the others were shocked too. However, Jared was right, for Nicole had been looking at him as if they were strangers as soon as she came inside. I see. Now I know why she hasn't said a word since she came back here, Stanley said, having noticed that something was not right too, as he began to feel bad for Nicole. As Nikki had heard everything they were talking about, she said, "It's true that I've lost my memories. I can't recognize any of you." She was afraid that she would upset them more if she addressed them wrongly. Gloria and Mrs. Wallace Sr. burst out crying upon hearing that Nicole had lost her memories. She has lost her memories? Oh God! How could you be so cruel to my daughter? Now, they finally knew why she never came home, and with that in mind, they began to wonder about what she had gone through while she was living away from home alone. Upon noticing the look of sorrow on Gloria's face, Nikki explained, "Don't worry. I've been doing fine in the past 5 years, and I have friends who took good care of me. Even though I have kids, I'm able to support us as a family. I haven't really faced any hardships." It was in her intention to console and assure them, but everyone's eyes widened as soon as they heard the word kids. Kids? What kids? Samuel and Spencer exchanged glances. It was then that Nikki realized that she had said something wrong. I gave birth to a pair of twins 5 years ago." A pair of twins? Samuel and Spencer exclaimed, becoming even more surprised as Nicole's children were twins, just like them. In addition, Jared was just as surprised as the rest of them, for he did not have one child but two. Nike scratched her head. Yeah, a boy and a girl. It was her first time reuniting with her family, and she felt weird sharing this kind of information with them. However, she figured that it would not be right for her to withhold it after seeing the happy faces of her family. How wonderful! Daniel, who had been silent all this while, said after taking a deep breath. He was feeling so emotional moments ago that he could not find the right words to utter. Then, after knowing that Nicole was already a mother of two, he heaved a sigh of relief. However, it was then that Samuel noticed something peculiar. Feeling uneasy, he instinctively shifted his gaze to Jared as he asked, "Wait, you weren't pregnant 5 years ago. Who's their father?" His question had caught his brother's attention too. Jared and Nicole had been separated over the past 5 years. Yet Nicole has given birth to a pair of twins. Is it possible that their father is someone else? Suddenly, Samuel and Spencer began to look at Jared with sympathetic eyes. Jared was annoyed as he looked at them. They were eyeing him as if suggesting that he had been cheated on. Frustrated, he said, "We've already suspected that Nicole was already pregnant 5 years ago when we were coming back. The children are mine. There's no doubt about it." Jared then shot them a cold glare, clearing their baseless doubts. It was only then that they wiped the sympathetic looks of their faces and shifted their attention back to Nicole. "So you were pregnant 5 years ago? We had no idea," the twin brothers exclaimed, feeling very excited. Faced with her family's warm affection, she did not know what to do. Gloria and Mrs. Wallace Sr. quickly wiped the tears off their faces and asked, "What about your children? Where are they now?" After 5 years apart, Nicole had finally returned with her children. As such, the family had to meet them. The children. Nicole was about to speak when she suddenly heard a racket from the entrance. "Let go of me. I'll call the cops on you." Nicole knew that it was Nolan the instant she heard the adorable and confident voice. Nolan. Nicole shifted her gaze to the door and saw the butler coming inside with the little guy in his grasp. When the butler noticed that Nicole knew him, he steadily placed him down on his feet at once. "This child tried to sneak in just now. Ms. Nicole, do you know him?" Nolan stretched his tiny legs out and ran toward Nicole. "She's my mommy." The Riddles were shocked upon hearing that. They were just talking about him, and there he was. His physiognomy was a combination of Jared and Nicole's best features. Indeed, he looked extremely adorable. "Nicole, is this your child?" Gloria's eyes sparkled when she spotted Nolan, feeling both surprised and delighted. Nolan immediately protested after hearing the name they had used to refer to his mother. "My mommy's name is not Nicole. Her name is Nikki." Suddenly, the riddles fell silent. Noticing how incorrigible the little guy was, Jared grabbed him by his collar and lifted him off the ground. That's just a temporary name your mother has been using for the past 5 years. This is her home, and now that she's back, she'll be called by her real name, Nicole. How dare you try to change my wife's name, you little brat? That's not your decision to make. He fumed. My other daddy gave mommy that name. You can't change it. Nolan swung his little arms at Jared, though he could not hit him. Jared's gaze darkened as soon as Nolan had uttered those words. Little brat. Your mother and I are legally married. I'll decide what her name is. Noticing the tension building up between them, Nicole stepped up and took the kid away from Jared. That's enough. Why are you arguing with a child? It's just a name anyway. I'll change it when I return home, she said. Mommy. Nolan looked at Nicole with a pout. How could you change your name? Nicole smiled at Nolan. Silly Nolan. It's just that I've forgotten what my real name was. Now that I've found my parents and my family, it's only right that I reclaim my real name. Mommy's parents? Nolan scratched his head and looked around, whereupon he spotted a middle-aged couple. Them. Nolan pointed at them. Nicole quickly grabbed his finger. They're your grandparents, and you shouldn't point at them like that. It's impolite. But after he heard the word grandparents, Nolan quickly became silent. In his kindergarten, everyone had their grandparents to love them in addition to their parents. He had always wanted to meet his own grandparents, but as he was not expecting to see them here, he felt somewhat shy. Nicole had never seen him acting like this. He proceeded to hide behind Nicole, peeking his head out to observe Daniel and Gloria. Nicole could not help but giggle before she held him up. It's okay. Your grandparents are not going to hurt you. Then Nolan went on to say, I know that they won't hurt me, but are they going to get me any gifts? My friends from kindergarten told me that their grandparents would always give them presents. And I've never received any. Nolan sounded a little sullen as he uttered the last few words. Previously, he had never dared to say these things to his mother because he was worried that it would make Nicole sad. As soon as Daniel and Gloria heard Nolan mentioning gifts, they immediately said, Of course there are gifts. We've prepared a lot of gifts for you, Nolan. We'll make up for the past 5 years, okay? Sean flashed a warm smile the moment he saw the anticipatory look on Nolan's face. I'll do the same too. Steve then bent down and added after hearing what Sean had said. Me too. Well, count me in. Just tell me what you like. Stanley smiled at Nolan. You should tell me instead. I'll buy you anything in this world. Spencer squatted down, attempting to cheer Nolan up. Samuel could not contain his excitement anymore after hearing what his brothers had offered. I'll give you a basketball signed by Kobe Bryant himself and a pair of limited edition sneakers. You can have as many as you want. Nolan was stunned. He was already delighted that his grandparents were going to give him presents. But unexpectedly, his 5 uncles wanted to do the same too. At this point, he simply could not imagine how many presents he would be getting. In fact, he was already thinking about how to show them off to his friends at kindergarten. And while it might be true that everybody had grandparents, none of them had as many uncles as him. Happily, Nolan said, Thank you, my dear uncles. Nicole felt extremely embarrassed upon realizing how many presents Nolan was going to get just because of his few words. Hey you guys. Don't listen to his nonsense. Save your money. How could this little brat ask for so many presents during his first meeting with them? This is so embarrassing, she thought. I don't mind spending money on Nolan at all. Samuel eagerly said. If Nolan had grown up with us, we would definitely have given him more. These gifts are nothing. That's right. It's only right for me to spoil my nephew, Spencer rightfully stated. Nicole looked at them, feeling embarrassed and at a loss for words. Then, she subtly glowered at Nolan. I can't stand this little brat at all. She fumed. However, Nolan did not seem to be bothered at all, even when he realized that his mother was glaring at him. Instead, he was delighted. It was only then that he realized how wonderful it felt to be loved by so many elders. Nicole kept her eyes on the gleeful expression on Nolan's face, as if he had completely forgotten about his resistance toward Jared. Then, she grabbed his arm and said, "Do you realize how inappropriate this is, you little brat? How could you ask for gifts when you've just met them? This is a very impolite thing to do." Nolan chuckled, and mischievously, he began to speak as if he was an adult. "They said they want to make up for all the years lost. It'll be even more impolite to refuse their kindness." Daniel was somewhat intrigued. "He's right. We're willing to do that for him. Here, Nolan, let me hold you." Even though Nolan was not very familiar with Daniel, he stepped forward and allowed Daniel to hold him for the sake of the presents anyway. He even said in a sweet voice, "Hello, Grandpa." "Ha!" Daniel was delighted, unable to contain his happiness after reuniting with his grandson, whom he had not met for years. Mrs. Wallace Sr. quietly wiped the tears from her eyes. "How wonderful! Not only did you return safely, you've brought your son with you too. Thank God." Nicole looked at Mrs. Wallace Sr., who had white hair all over her head. Even though she had no memories of her, she still patted her hand tenderly and assured, "Don't cry. I'm here now." Yes, I won't cry," Mrs. Wallace Sr. replied, not wanting her tears to ruin everybody else's mood. Once she had met everyone briefly, Nicole began to have a rough idea of who they were to her. After that, everyone sat down, with Jared taking a seat beside Nicole. Nolan suddenly widened his eyes. "Don't get so close to my mommy." Then, he forcefully squeezed himself between them. Everyone else felt very strange after seeing how Nolan seemed more resistant toward Jared compared to anyone else there. "Nolan, it's normal for your daddy and mommy to sit together. Come here, let me hold you." Stanley comforted, noticing that something was wrong. However, Nolan did not give in this time, and remained seated between them. Then, he stared at Jared with a determined look on his face. "Just because you've brought mommy home, it doesn't mean that I'll start liking you." He still could not forget the time when Jared startled his mother at the airport. Besides, his godfather was the one who had been taking care of his mother for the past 5 years, and there was just no way he would betray him. A large number of men had been chasing after Nicole, and he would never let any of them succeed. Even though he badly wanted to find out who his birth father was, his desire to meet him notwithstanding, he had to keep his word. After all, his godfather was the one who had been keeping him company when his real father was nowhere to be found. It was just impossible for him to allow a person who had bullied his mother to be his father. Jared looked at Nolan's hostile gaze, and his gaze darkened. He ignored Nolan, after which he went to the other side and sat down beside Nicole. This time, he did not give Nicole any chance to move away as wrapped his arm around her. "What are you doing?" Nicole blushed after noticing what Jared was doing in front of everyone. Jared then said in a low voice, "We always did this." Nicole felt shy, wondering if she should believe him or not. Is it true that we had always been very affectionate in front of them? Well, they seem to be very used to this, she thought. With that in mind, Nicole did not resist. However, Nolan responded by puffing his cheeks up angrily. "Nicole, where have you been staying for the past 2 days? Were you staying in your new house with Jared?" Gloria asked. "My new house?" Nicole asked herself. Taken aback and not knowing what to say, Nicole remained silent. But it was then that Jared smiled and said, "Yeah. She has been staying in our manor lately. I had decorated the master bedroom years ago, and nothing has changed." Though he had uttered those words affectionately, Nicole was still shocked. God! The place that I've been staying in was the bedroom for him and his wife. It's so strange that I haven't noticed that at all. That's good. After all, you guys are married. And it's only right for you two to stay together, Gloria agreed, although her eyes still betrayed hints of reluctance. Having noticed that, Jared smiled and said, "Don't worry. If Nicole wants to come back for the upcoming days, she's free to do so." Nicole immediately agreed upon hearing that. "I do want to come back and live here. He had forcibly kissed me twice now," she thought. "It's too dangerous for me to stay under the same roof as this man. I've got to seize the opportunity and move out of that house." Besides, Nicole really wanted to spend some time with her family. Even though Jared felt a little unhappy that she had made that decision without any hesitation, he was not going to go back on his word. "Sure. I'll move in here with you then." He would never leave Nicole again, no matter what. Nicole was just about to turn him down when she suddenly heard Gloria saying, "Good. That settles it. Alfred, would you please clean the biggest bedroom on the second floor for Nicole and her husband?" "I'm on it." Alfred responded and headed upstairs with a servant at once. Nicole was shocked. What's going on? Why did Gloria tell him to clean one room only? Come on. I only came to live here because I wanted to get rid of him. How wonderful. Now my own mother wants me to stay in the same room as him. Nicole uttered, wanting to request a room just for herself. However, Jared had already predicted what she would say. He quickly interrupted her and said to Gloria, "Thank you, Mom. Please prepare a room for Nolan too." Upon hearing that, Gloria replied, "That's for sure. We've turned the remaining 2 guest rooms into nurseries. We'll have it cleaned up for Nolan." Mrs. Wallace Sr. and Tia had been staying with them while Sean and Steve had both gotten married in the past 2 years, so they had converted the 2 extra rooms into 2 individual nurseries. However, their wives had not been pregnant yet, and no one was expecting that Nicole would be the first person to use one of the rooms. Gloria was absolutely delighted by this. When Nicole heard that, she knew that there were no extra rooms left for her. So, she swallowed the words she was about to say. "Whatever. It's no big deal. There's probably a couch in there. I'll just sleep on that," she concluded. Noticing that something was not right, Nolan immediately said, "I want to sleep with Mommy." He was not going to let that bad guy, Jared, sleep with his mother. He figured that his foster father would not have a chance with his mother anymore if he were to let that happen. However, Jared taunted him with a look of indifference on his face. "You've grown up and you don't have to sleep with your mother anymore. She's my wife, and she'll be sleeping with me." Then, he hugged Nicole even tighter as if he was doing that deliberately just to provoke Nolan. "Hey!" Nolan got angry, ready to say something. Samuel noticed something was not right and immediately held Nolan up. "Hey, let's not meddle with your parents' affairs. Come on, I'll show you my basketball that has Kobe Bryant's autograph on it." "No." Nolan struggled. However, Spencer proceeded to follow them and block his view. And just like that, Nolan was taken away by 2 of Nicole's brothers. For some reason, Nicole was relieved after Nolan had left. She really did not want the father and son to argue in front of her family anymore. After that, they continued to chat. Daniel and Gloria went on to ask where Nicole had been living all these years and what she had gone through, during which Nicole would answer them while avoiding the heavier topics. Meanwhile, throughout it all, Jared listened quietly at the side as if he was looking for some clues. At night, the family had a reunion dinner together. Nolan got tired soon after, whereupon the nanny took him to the nursery upstairs to get some sleep. Nicole's brothers noticed that it was getting late, and not wanting to take up Nicole and Jared's time together anymore, Stanley walked them to their room and left. With the room door shut, Nicole finally had the chance to ask Jared, "Your house is just next door and there are so many empty rooms there. Did you really have to squeeze in here with me? This is my first day reuniting with my family, and yet he just wouldn't give me some time alone with them. He's even forcing me to sleep on the sofa. How heartless of him," she thought. "We're a married couple to your parents, after all. They might be worried if we were to live separately, don't you think?" He lifted his brows and asked, his words leaving Nicole speechless. Even though it was just her first time seeing her parents, she could tell how much her disappearance all those years had affected them, judging by the exhausted looks on their faces. So, Nicole figured that she should avoid adding to their emotional burdens. However, she rolled her eyes at Jared anyway. "Quit making excuses." She was left with no choice, so she pushed the door open and went inside. Indeed, the room was spacious, and the bed was huge. However, there were no couches in the room. No couches. Nicole panicked. There, she discovered that her plan had been ruined. Jared turned around and saw the disappointed expression on Nicole's face, and that was when he figured out what she was planning to do. He smirked at her, and playfully he said, "Huh? Were you planning to sleep on the sofa?" Nicole glowered at him. What are the other options? It was just impossible for her to not think of a way to sleep in a separate space from the guy who would forcibly kiss her. Unfortunately, there's no couch. But the bed is pretty big. Jared was pleased. He was glad that Nicole had chosen to stay here. Otherwise, he would not know when he would have the chance to share a bed with her. Nicole looked at him in annoyance, and deep down, she was fighting the urge to tell him that she was not going to share a bed with him, no matter how big it was. However, the bedroom had a modern design to it, and there was no carpet at all. So, she would not even be able to sleep on the floor. Then, she stepped forward angrily and drew a line on the bed with the blanket. "You'll sleep on that side, and I'll sleep on this side. Don't cross the line," she warned. Jared could not help but chuckle after seeing that familiar gesture. Nicole had done the exact same thing when he had sneaked into her house to sleep with her years ago. Nicole was stunned after seeing the warm and gentle smile that had suddenly crossed Jared's face. "What's going on? Why is he looking at me and smiling like that? Why are you smiling?" She collected herself and asked as her heart raced. "Because of you. You did the same thing back then, but it never worked on me," he replied. Then, after uttering those words, he suddenly pushed Nicole onto the bed. Before Nicole could react, she was already pinned down on the bed. Jared then clasped both of her hands above her head. "Jared Johnston, what are you doing?" she shouted.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.